The latest rumors have the super GPUs announced at CES and then launching throughout January. The leak specs show we will be getting better performance, but how much better performance will the supers provide? And more importantly, will we get better prices? Let's get into it. The rumors abound on the RTX 40 series GPUs that are set to release in January. Let's consider the latest rumored specs at video cards and understand what kind of performance uplift these supers will provide. From the rumored specs, we can see that the 4080 Super will only have 5% more CUDA cores than the 4080. The total graphics power, or TGP, will remain the same at 320 watts, and the VRAM is expected to remain at the same 16 gigabytes. This is not a very interesting GPU for raw performance. It is not significant at all from the performance standpoint, but it will be significant from a marketing standpoint. This super refresh will enable the 4080 to go from trailing the 7900 XTX in the benchmark charts to being slightly better by a few percent. All the average charts released by the reviewers on embargo day will show the 4080 Super will be just ahead of the 7900 XTX, and that will improve people's perception of this GPU. For me, the other two super cards will be much more interesting. The 4070 Ti Super will increase the number of CUDA cores by 10%. It will also keep the same TGP of 285 watts, but more importantly, it will also change from the smaller 8104 die to the larger 8103 die which is used on the 4080. What this means is that the 4070 Ti Super will also have the same 16 gigabytes of VRAM as the 4080. It will also get an increase in memory bandwidth from 500 gigabytes per second to over 700 gigabytes per second. That's a massive 40% increase. These changes combine to make the 4070 Ti Super a baby 4080, and I expect it to perform better at 4K. I did a couple of videos on the 7900 XT and called that the best budget 4K gaming GPU due to its higher VRAM amount and memory bandwidth. I expect the 4070 Ti Super performance will be more like a 3090 Ti, which means it will be as good or slightly better than the 7900 XT. The 4070 Ti Super could become the best budget 4K gaming GPU. Finally, the 4070 Super is rumored to increase the number of CUDA cores by a massive 22%. Now, it is still based on the same 8104 die, and that will have the same 12 gigabytes of VRAM, so I don't expect any big changes to the memory bandwidth. The total graphics power is increased from 200 watts in the 4070 to 225 watts in the 4070 Super. And as I showed in my video on the 4070 Ti and how impressed I was with its efficiency, I also did power scaling, and going from 280 watts down to 225 watts, you would only lose about 3% in performance. With the limited TGP of 225 watts, it will hold back the performance from getting too close to the 4070 Ti. In other words, you will not be able to overclock your way up to within 5% of the 4070 Ti. Even so, I do expect the 4070 Super to come within 10% of the performance of the 4070 Ti. And that means it will be between the performance of a 6900 XT and a 3080 Ti. A 70 series GPU similar to previous gen's 80 Ti. Well, would you look at that? Like I discussed in my videos before, the current Gen 70 series providing performance similar to the previous gen's 80 Ti. This 4070 Super will get close to that generational performance upgrade we have seen many times in the past. Order is now restored in the world, and life now makes sense again. Of the three super GPUs, I am only personally interested in the 4070 Ti Super. The 4080 Super improvement is not compelling. As I've shown in previous videos, a 4080 GPU, Super or not, should not cost any more than $899. The 4070 Super, while a nice update, is still stuck with 12 gigabytes of VRAM and not enough performance improvement over the 7800 XT. I expect that the performance per dollar of the 4070 Super will not be much better, if at all, assuming you can get a 7800 XT for $499. The 4070 Ti Super with the increase in VRAM to 16 gigabytes means this GPU should last a couple of generations. And with the massive 40% increase in memory bandwidth, it will add to its longevity and is more appropriate for 4K gaming. If NVIDIA would have released this level of GPU hardware with these specifications as the 4080 1 year ago for sub $800, I think it would have been received very well. Now that we understand what performance to expect, is the 40 series now worth considering? That depends on price. Nobody knows the pricing at this point, just lots of speculation. But if we look at history, there was only one Super Series ever released, and that was with the Turing generation. In July of 2019, NVIDIA released the 2060 Super, the 2070 Super, and the 2080 Super GPUs. And when those released, the 2080 Super replaced the 2080 at $699, the 2070 Super replaced the 2070 at $499, and the 2060 Super was released at $399, and the 2060 remained in the lineup at or below $349. That Super Series did not bring any massive price cuts, but it did provide more performance at the same price point. I expect NVIDIA will repeat that same strategy. They will have the 4080 Super replace the 4080, the 4070 Ti Super replace the 4070 Ti, and the 4070 Super come in at the 4070's original MSRP price of $599, and then have the 4070 in more limited availability and fewer SKUs at $549 and below. What about the rumored massive price cuts? The only price cut I would expect would be on the two outgoing models, the 4080 and 4070 Ti, as they look to clear stock to make room for the Supers. The only price cut that is rumored is that of having the 4080 Super come in at $999 and not $1199. I don't know why NVIDIA would do that. With the high demand of 4090s in the world due to AI, stock is low and prices are high. That leaves a vacuum for the 4080 Super to fill. Anyone who doesn't want to pay scalper prices for the 4090 will have to look at the second fastest GPU, and that will be the 4080 Super, not the XTX. And at the 4090 scalper prices over $2,000, the 4080 Super at $1199 looks very good. And that is why that little leapfrog in performance over the 7900 XTX is so important. NVIDIA needs the 4080 Super to be the second fastest GPU in the world, even if only by a few percent. And then with its features, incredible mind share, that should be enough to convince people to spend $1,200 on the second fastest GPU. I didn't understand this refresh at all when I first heard of it. However, if you take a step back and look at what NVIDIA is doing, it's rather ingenious. A 3D chess move of sorts. And this could be the perfect time to strike, as it could be the coup de grace for NVIDIA. Why do I say that? We'll cover that next time. Thank you all so very much for watching. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.